Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Steven. So, this week's blog is entitled Dros. There's been some interesting developments over the last week or so with the California Dealer Record of Sale, or as we dealers like to call it, the DES system. Um, those of you who have never bought a firearm in California may not understand the process. In California, when you want to buy a gun, the first thing that you have to do is fill out what's called a 4473 form. That is a federal document, essentially, that you're articulating you are not a prohibited person, that you're the intended purchaser, and blah, 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 blah. Simultaneous with filling out that 4473 form, the dealer, in this particular case, me, fills out what's called the Dros. All right, this is an online interface that takes place with the state of California. During that time, essentially, the majority of the questions that are asked for on the 4473 end up going online and then transmitted to the California Department of Justice. Then, a 10-day waiting period becomes initiated. During that time, two things are simultaneously supposed to be happening. Number one, you, the purchaser, are supposed to be cooling off because the presumption is you want to buy this firearm for the purposes of committing an illegal act. And during these 10 days, you're now going to cool off and let the better angels of your nature take hold, and you will not, in fact, commit this illegal act. Now, arguably, you'll still come in to pick up the gun, but your passions will not have been inflamed still, and you will not commit this egregious activity that you had originally contemplated. During this 10-day period of time, the state is also doing what vague concept called a background check. Now, as a practical matter, let's look at exactly how this works. In other states, let's use Arizona as an example. In Arizona, if I want to purchase a firearm, a dealer is going to do something called a NICS check. The NICS check stands for National Instant Criminal Background System. Effectively, it's an FBI-run system, and it takes care of all 50 states. So I go into the dealer, I say I want to buy this Mega Blaster 3000. They sit there and they take my identification, they run a NICS check, and in about 15 minutes, a decision is made by the federal government as to whether or not you should be allowed to acquire the firearm. Now, what I mean by that, there are certain prohibiting items that would prevent somebody from owning a gun. You've involuntarily been institutionalized at some point in your past. You've got a felony conviction. You pled guilty or were found guilty of misdemeanor domestic violence. There are a number of prohibiting things that would keep you from being in possession of a firearm. Now, they're not just checking their federal records, they're checking the records of all 50 states because arguably, while in the state of Arizona there may be no criminal background that you've developed, you may have developed a criminal background in New Mexico, which Arizona would have no knowledge of. So by having this federal system, they look at all the different states, and they say, yeah, this guy's good to go, or this gal's good to go, and they give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. California centralizes this process in Sacramento at the Department of Justice. So rather than me as a dealer in California going directly to the federal government to perform a NICS check, I take this information and I send it to Sacramento. Sacramento then runs a NICS check on you. Okay, again, takes about 15 minutes. Well, in this COVID-19 environment that we've currently got, the Department of Justice has stated, we're really, really busy. We're trying our best to do these background checks. Again, it's all automated. They're not doing anything, okay? But, we just may not be able to get them all done within the 10-day waiting period of time. Now, I first heard rumors of this, but it's actually hit. I have 3 individuals that had come in to pick up their firearms, okay? These 3 individuals, at the end of their 10-day waiting period, were not told that the firearm transfer was being delayed. did not say that it had been denied. Simply, the system had not updated to allow a delivery of the firearm. All right. Now, it hasn't been like this across the board. Some people have actually been able to take possession of it, but it's happenstance. There's no rhyme to reason. The worst part about it is that when the Department of Justice finally gets around to saying, okay, yeah, you can have this gun, they don't notify me. Every day I have to go onto the DES website and check to see whether or not these people have been cleared. Also understand that statutorily, the Department of Justice only has 30 days to do this. So they could theoretically reach to the end of that 30 days, say, yeah, we've gone ahead and made a decision, they can pick up their firearm. If they don't pick up the firearm that day, then the entire process evaporates and they have to start all over again. All right? One could argue this is an exercise in abject incompetence on the part of DOJ. It's entirely conceivable, as I always like to tell my law partner, when given a set of circumstances, never, ever, ever bet against lazy. Okay? And it's entirely conceivable that DOJ is simply being lazy. I'm somewhat loath to accept that argument, only from the standpoint that they don't do anything. It's an automated system, all right? So then we go to the next level of analysis, is there some sort of nefarious intent? And that is entirely conceivable. DOJ readily admits that there has been a sustained increase in gun purchases over the last 3 weeks, and they, I can tell you, are not overly thrilled about the fact that there are all these new firearms showing up in California. So they may be purposefully delaying these things. In any event, it's a violation of your civil rights. There's absolutely no question about it. Fortunately, there are some groups that are right now trying to deal with DOJ, and potentially there may be a lawsuit involved in this as well. In any event, I want you guys to be aware of this. As always, train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, train with purpose, and above all else, stay safe.